Hey everyone, this is another episode of Albums and Memories where I talk about the albums I have in my CD collection and the memories I have behind them. Now this time it's going to be a tiny bit different, not too much, but because I don't have two separate albums this week, but rather I actually have two albums I was looking for, but they're packaged into one thing, and that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers' first and third albums, their major label debut, their self-titled debut, and their third album, which is the Uplift Mofo Party Plan. And honestly, I don't have much to talk about here. Not a lot. In fact, out of all the Red Hot Chili, I have all the Red Hot Chili Peppers albums, and I can pretty much talk about them and the memories I have about them. But in terms of the full-length albums I have, these two are the out of all of them I have, these are the ones that I listen to the least. Honestly, I've only listened to them each two or three times. Everything else is probably about over what, six or seven at least. And sometimes I actually have a hankering for them at least at one point, but not these two. I mean, some songs sure, but not the whole entire album because they are very flawed. In fact, out of their first three albums, I prefer their second one. Hell, I actually like their second album better than their fourth album. But we'll get into that later. I'll talk about the first album, and no, first album they did, and listening to it after years of listening to them go through changes and music-wise and personality-wise, their first album is the worst. It's their worst album. Let's not split hairs. Even the band doesn't like it, but the memories I have for this album isn't the album itself. It's more along the lines of a couple of songs, like their first song, "True Men Don't Kill Coyotes." Uh, I didn't really listen to that song until I listened to most of the rest of their discography. So it's like at one point I listened to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I was a fiend, and I was just listening to it. Like I listened to them, started listening to them around Stadium Arcadium, and then I worked my way backwards, and then I found like their first song, "True Men Don't Kill Coyotes," or first song on their first album. And it's like, okay, fine. And I listened to it, and I was like, this is not a good song, but it's damn catchy at times. But no, it's not actually that good of an album or good of a song. The only reason I remember liking the song is mostly having to do with the fact like I have a friend who I kept like saying the title to or singing it to the point where he gets annoying sometimes. And since he doesn't use Twitter, he has a Twitter and he follows me. We follow each other on Twitter, and it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna spam since you don't use it, I'm gonna spam the music video for the song to you several times. So one day, if you're ever going to use it, you're going to find a whole bunch of notifications, and it's going to be 50 tweets from me just repeating, like giving you the music video. And I want to do it again, just for the hell of it, on Twitter. He uses Facebook, but not Twitter. And another song, which is "Mommy Where's Daddy," which is the second song I've ever heard, mostly because it was performed live by the original members. You know, Anthony Kiedis, Flea, Hello Slovak, Jack Irons, yeah. And I prefer the live one, because it actually has more pump. While this one, like the studio album song, seems so stale and really 80s. I know that sounds weird because the song comes from the 80s, but this one seems like it's so flat and lifeless and so 80s. It's just bland. It's the bland 80s. Like, there's nothing to it. Unlike True Men Don't Kill Coyotes, like, there's not much to it, but at least I can say, hey, I remember that song. Where Mommy Where's Daddy, the studio song, is like, eh. But the live performance I actually really enjoyed because there's so much energy to it. And that's the main problem with the first album. This is a band that has so much energy right out of the gate, but it's been like stagnated because of the producer. And that's why they don't like it, because they could have done so much more. And there is some flavor here and there, but there's nothing to it. Like, there's nothing that'll get me to come back for this album. The only reason I actually have this album is because I'm a Red Hot Chili Pepper completist, and I wanted all their albums. Just to say I have their albums already, I have the rest, so I might as well just get... Like, keep in mind, these are the last two albums I needed in my Red Hot Chili Pepper collection. I don't want to get their greatest hits because I have an MP3, which I used to listen to, but I stopped. And that contains most of their songs. And also, since I have all their albums, I don't want to get like the greatest hits album just because Well, I have the songs that are on that album. I have previous albums I bought, so it's like, oh, what's the point? Oh, and another song called "Out in L.A." I don't like the From what I hear, I don't like the studio version. I prefer the demo because I'm like, oh my god, like the studio version is like, it's okay, but the demo is really good. Like I remember, it's only a minute long, almost 2 minutes long, and it just goes by really quick, and it's such a there's so much energy to that, and that's the main problem. If you listen to the demo for Out in LA and the demo for the what's it called, the studio album, it's completely different. It's like the studio album, their energies get sucked out like that's the problem. Like most of the demos they have for the songs here are great. Like they perform fantastically for their high energy things. But in here it's like their energy just gets sucked out. And Out in LA is a perfect example. The studio song is not good, but the demo is just so much better. I remember the first time I listened to that song, I'm like, oh my god, and I listened to it for about 45 minutes over and over because it was just such an exciting rush to it. And I felt that, like, here's hoping that they actually have, like, what's it called? Like, if they ever release, probably they have released the first album as a remastered edition. I mean, it's a I don't think this is remastered, but they put it out because I don't think anybody would buy their first three albums because their people are really more interested in their other material, their newer material. And their last song, Grandpappy Do Plenty, is actually was a familiar song to me because I kept hearing it, but I never knew why. Because it's for a band that's really high energy, it sounds so sinister. And I remember like listening to the song for the first time, I'm like, this sounds like something I would listen to out of a crime drama or something, like a crime drama movie. Like there's intense sneaking and then intense like, what's all this? What's going on? Like it's sneaking in the dark, and then this song comes on, and it's like, oh yeah. So even when they were a wild rock band with kind of no direction. Let's be honest. There's not much direction in the first albums, like you could see that there's maturity in terms of like the very last song because I actually really thought it's like holy crap, this is actually pretty. This song is pretty intense. It's an instrumental. There's no singing. It's just the guys playing the instruments just doing what they could do best, and you could feel like there's maturity here. And like I don't have much to say about the first album entirely, but I feel like it's actually not, it's you can skip it. I mean, it's a curiosity if you have everything else, but you can skip it. Same which I can say about the Uplift Mofo Party Plan. Now, I remember, like, for the memories I have, I don't have many memories for the album. I just have the memories for the song, and it's mostly due to the fact, like, again, started at CD Arcadium and I worked my way backwards, and I saw a song called Fight Like a Brave, and me and my friends, and I'm like, oh my god, okay, these are actually pretty good songs. And it's like, oh my god, like, this is the high energy that was lacking for the first album. It's not as good as their second album because I was more like, this second album is more, I'm gonna get to that later, eventually, but I can't see it from here because there's so many CDs. But the thing is, like, I remember in high school, I kept listening to Fight Like a Brave, and me and my friends, like, grade 10, and again, first MP3 I ever had, I downloaded a whole bunch of Red Hot Chili Pepper songs, and it's like, that was pretty much, those two were pretty much my morning songs. It was Fight Like a Brave. I remember the track listing at some point. It was along the MP3. It was Fight Like a Brave, and then afterwards it was Knock Me Down, and then it was Me and My Friends. And yeah, I never really. I tried hard to like listen to those two songs, but it's like I really like the beginning, and that's it. And then I forced myself to go through it, and it's like, oh, these are actually pretty damn good songs. There's so much high energy, something that's lacking from other songs that they did in the past. And so it's like, yeah, okay. And then I eventually bought this album, which is I couldn't find separate albums like I do with my other CDs, like it's completely separate. So it's like it's a 2 disc set, and lo and behold, they're the only 2 albums I have. Coincidentally, I found Freaky Styley a lot easier than this, and that was only like what $2.99, and yeah. But this album, like the third album of a Party Plan, is a little bit better, but not by much. I mean, I remember like a memory that I have for one of the songs, like well, Behind the Sun, I have a couple of memories, but like not much. I didn't listen to that song all that much. And Funky Crime is actually my personal favorite from this album because it's just so. It sounds so. It's high energy, but at least it's a little bit contained. Like it's contained, but their energy is there, but it's focused, and that's the best I can say about the third album. It's focused, but the second album is a lot more funky and punky, and that's kind of what I actually liked about it. Like originally, I didn't think I think fun, Freaky Style Freaky Style would be their second worst album. It turns out I'll get into that later, but yeah, this is actually a really like Funky Crime is a very decent song, and so is Backwoods. I remember, like, okay, maybe I have a memory of this third album, and that was me a couple years ago playing Halo Online, just playing the third album constantly, just playing the third album while I'm playing Halo Online, and I don't know if that's kind of strange, like listening to an '80s punk rock band going through the '80s rock thing and playing Halo Online. You think there will be a lot? It will be a lot more intense, but no. I just decided, I'm just gonna listen to this a lot, and I did, and it didn't bother me all that much. Then again, it's been a while, and talking about me playing Halo, listening to the Red Hot Chili Peppers is a bit weird, but whatever. It's something you got to do. And so, with that being said, my two least favorite Red Hot Chili Peppers albums. I mean, sure, the third album has a little bit more memories to it, in my opinion, but no, this is something I usually skip, like, because I'm more of a newer fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like their older material seemed like a good idea at the time, and it probably was like groundbreaking, I think. But you know, it's it's not for me. I just have it just to say, I have it, and yeah, if you have the rest of it, I just say go for it. Just go for it. And that's another episode of Albums and Memories here, and I'll see you next week. So until then,